Alright class, this is our Tuesday social studies video for the week. Yesterday we talked a lot about the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. Today we're kind of shifting gears a little bit to talk about the Industrial Revolution. Now, as you can see on your overview for Tuesday, you have two sheets, 1, 2, and all of them, we're going to talk about all of the sections in here, we're talking about in this video. That's pretty much all the video is telling you what these inventions were. So I'm going to have this sheet here so you can follow along, and I'm going in order. But just so you know, all of them will be in here. Okay? So what is the Industrial Revolution? The Industrial Revolution was a time of change in the way that goods were produced. So before, if things were made by hand, now they were done with a machine. And we see that in several different ways. So we're going to take a look at some of those, okay? But it was a huge time of change for everybody. Things became, you can hear about the Industrial Revolution, but things were produced more quickly. They could get more product out, and it really kind of shaped the way of making and selling produce at this point. All right, so the first one we're going to look at, if you look here, is the telegraph. Now, we're not going to go through every single one of these. All you really need to know is the inventor or improver, the date, and what it does. That's all we're really going to talk about on this one. So these two you can leave blank, okay? So we have the telegraph. The telegraph was invented / improved by Samuel Morse, like Morse code, in 1844. So the first section is Samuel Morse, and the second section is 1844. Now, what does it do? Well, it's a telegraph. You can send messages over long distances, over longer distances. So I could be sending one to somebody all the way up in Illinois if I really wanted to. He improved on the ones that kind of already existed, that already had ideas forming for it. So people had tried it and didn't necessarily work out. He improved on it after he created the Morse code. So he created it and he's like, I think I have a way that this could work. And he improved on the telegraph, okay? Then we have the steel plow. So that's the second one. Sorry, it takes me a second to get it up. The steel plow. The person that invented this was John Deere. You may see his products. They're the big green tractors with the yellow Deere that says Deere on it with an E at the end, D-E-E-R-E. He is the one that created the steel plow. He created it in 1837. What does it do? It plows the field for you to get ready to plant all your things, all of your seeds and produce into the ground. So instead of having to dig it all up by hand, which would take forever and a super hard work, he created a steel machine that does it for you. And it does it much more quickly because unlike us, machines don't really run out of energy. They may run out of batteries or whatever, but they don't just lose energy throughout the day and go, I'm gonna fall over now, kind of thing. Make sense? So he created the steel plow to make it to make plowing much quicker. Now, similarly to that, we have the mechanical reaper, this third one. The mechanical reaper was created by Cyrus McCormick. Now, McCormick is the name of several different companies and big things that you may have heard of, may not have. Either way, it's made by Cyrus McCormick in 1831. Now, what does this do? What is a reaper? Well, when you reap something, you're gathering it. So when you sow it, you plant it in the ground. When you reap it, you're harvesting it. That's the word I'm looking for. You're harvesting it. So this mechanical reaper, so let's take wheat, for instance. With wheat, you would have a giant, I believe it's called a sickle, where it's like the curved blade, and you would have to go whack, 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 and whack away at all the wheat and gather it all up. The mechanical reaper did that for you mechanically, so you didn't have to worry about it. And again, it made gathering, harvesting produce so much quicker and was a great improvement for farms, as was the steel plow. All right, moving down, we have the sewing machine, one of my favorite inventions in case you all didn't know that yet. This was improved upon by Elias Howe, Howe, Elias Howe in 1846. Sorry, I'm changing the page for the next one for you. 1846. This was kind of where it looked like an actual machine for you to do sewing with. So instead of sewing by hand, which, believe me, takes forever. You guys have seen how long it's taken me to do the cross stitching, right? Imagine sewing an entire shirt and having to do that for all of your clothing, or working in a clothing factory where you had to hand stitch everything. It takes so ridiculously long. I tried to hem a pair of pants one time. It took me hours and hours just to get the little circle on one leg done, and it wasn't even, guys. So the sewing machine made it possible to get more clothing sewn, more things sewn together, and increase product that way. All right, moving on. This first one on the next page that you're going to have, feel free to pause this at any time, by the way, because I know I'm just kind of going through it, but feel free to pause it so that you can switch gears and everything. So this first one that we're going to have is the steam engine. I do have the answers. I'll leave this here for you for just a second. Boop. 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 You can pause it, try to look at it. Sorry if it's not clear, but I will go over all of it for you. So the first one is the steam engine. You do not have to do a drawing if you do not want to, but you can. All right? So this was created by James Watt. W-A-T-T, kind of like the watt of a bulb, like if it's got 24 watts or whatever, that's a very low wattage. Anyway, so it was created by James Watt, and between kind of 1763 and 1775, this was actually before the Revolutionary War, he was working on improving ones that kind of already existed. He was like, these don't work as efficiently as they could, but how can I get that to happen? And so what he did was he realized the way that it works is that they have a cylinder of water that gets heated up, and it sends steam out, gets pushed through valves and stuff like in engines and like in an engine, and then that's what powers the machines. But he was like, that doesn't work as well. So he found out if you create a separate cylinder for the steam to go to first, it helps it be more efficient, run more efficiently. So that's how he kind of improved it. And it's used to power boats, to power trains. It can even power factories, things like that. So that's what the description is. That's what it's used for, is to really power different things that need electricity. Or need, not electricity, but need power of some sort. So steam engine trains, locomotives ran off of that kind of thing. All right? The next one we have is the power loom. Now, looms are a little elusive nowadays. We don't hear about them super often, but this was invented by Edmund Cartwright. All right, in 1785. So that should be your second little section here. Edmund Cartwright in 1785. Now, what does a power loom do? So a loom in general, you can do several things with it. You can make tapestries from it. So if you guys have ever watched Brave, when she's working on the giant tapestry of the family, that's on a loom. All right. You also have the rainbow looms where you guys can make the little bracelets. You have it and you're spreading it out and everything. But an actual loom makes like tapestries, and you can also thread cloths together to make threads and cloths. You can so you could thread like polyester and cotton together nowadays. They didn't really have polyester back then, but you can blend your threads together and make a cloth of different kinds. So the power loom made it where instead of doing that by hand, it's powered and done for you, which really, really, really increased that production of, I'm doing this as if you could imagine like fabric flying out of the loom, sorry. But it really increased the production of cloths and of tapestries and things like that. All right, and then finally, on this last one, we have the cotton gin, possibly the best known invention that people think of when they go, what do you think, like, what are some things in the Industrial Revolution? A lot of people's first thought is the cotton gin. And this was really a huge one. Kind of happened, it didn't kind of happen. It did happen. So it happened in 1793 by Eli Whitney. And what it did was when he visited the South and he saw that all these slaves were picking cotton and they had to separate the seeds from the cotton itself, he had to separate the seeds from the rest of it, from the fiber, that's the word. He was like, they can't get that much done. I'm going to create something that could get it done 50 times more than one person can do in a day by hand. And so that's what the cotton gin does. The cotton gin separates the cotton fibers, what we use in our clothing, from the seeds themselves. All right? And so that's what that one does. And it really, again, increased production. So once you have the cotton gin and you have the power loom and you have the sewing machine, the clothing industry kind of, there was a lot more that could be done, because now you have more cotton, so even if the demand for cotton is high, you can fill it. The power loom is going to create those threads and those cloths for you, and then you can sew it together on a sewing machine so much more quickly than you would have. All right, so those are the 7 inventions that we looked at. Make sure that you're at least studying the names and the people that invented them and what they do. All right, I wanted you guys to know when they were invented, but I won't necessarily have that on a test. I'll let you know more once we get closer to that test, exactly what you need to know, but you will need to know what they do and who created them, okay?